Welcome back to the Burnt Pancakes podcast. I am your host, Katie, and I am here to remind you that everyone burns their first pancake. Today, I'm having a momversation with Cassie Williams. She is the founder of Top Notch Newborn Care, and she's a postpartum doula and educator. We're going to talk all about what that is and how she is a godsend to parents. So welcome, Cassie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So glad to have you on. I wish I had known you when I had my first son.
Yes.
Because I could have used you. So
I hear that a lot.
Yeah, I bet. So let's talk a little bit. You are a postpartum doula. So
Yep.
the only thing I had ever heard was like a birthing doula.
Yep.
Like they're in the birth room. I didn't know that this even existed. Can you tell us what that is?
Yes. So it's pretty common to just assume all doulas are birth doulas. A birth doula would be in the room, in the hospital room, or at home doing a home birth. But for me, birth is not really my jam. I just love
Me neither.
I just love like the postpartum phase, the newborn, the moms, like helping everyone recover and just transition. So that is for me. And so that job or training is called postpartum doula. So
it seems like there's not a lot of talk about the postpartum days.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about the birth and how to prepare for it.
A lot of planning.
But that only lasts a few days. And then you bring the baby home. And I feel like so many of us are deer in headlights.
Yes.
Like, I didn't even know how to give my son a bath the first time I brought him home.
Yeah.
Even though I had taken a class at the hospital.
Yep.
But I was like, I don't know what to do.
And it's super like, you don't know until you don't know what you need to know until you're kind of in it. So that's kind of what I was noticing is, that the birth is kind of, it's a lead up and then we're done. And some birth doulas will do some postnatal type check-ins. And, but for me and my services, it's a longer term commitment, if you will. So a lot of my clients know and love that like, okay, Cassie's coming on Tuesday. If we could just get to Tuesday, make our list of questions and ask. A lot of my job the first few weeks is normalizing and educating. So when I'm with a family, I typically work nights. So I do in-home overnight, however many nights the family is looking for. There are some postpartum doulas that do days. I used to love days before I had my own kids.
Yeah.
But it
harder.
Yeah, but it got harder to leave them in the day and go to a family. So nights work best for my family because I leave and everyone's in bed. I get home and everyone's probably still in bed or just climbing out of bed. So my most common shift is 9 p.m. to 6 a.m.
9 p.m. Oh, wow.
Yep.
So what does that look like? So a parent has you come over. Do you do like help with night feedings? What do you do?
Yeah. What am I doing all these hours, all night?
Whole night long.
8-9 hours. I get in. So typically I'll get in, I'll check in. How are things going? Answer any questions. If there's a task they would like to do together, either learn from me or me watch them and give like tips and tricks.
So that's where the whole newborn bath thing. Like I was telling you, I did not know how to give my first son a bath.
Yep.
I ended up having to get my friend Megan.
Yeah.
She was coming up to visit one day. And so I told my husband, I'm like, we're not going to give him a bath until Megan's here.
Yes.
Because she can help us.
Yes.
And it just felt
and they're so slippery.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do we
she just
need?
like manhandled him like, this is how you do it. And we were like, oh my gosh, is he okay?
I know.
To have someone there to
do
help
things.
with that.
So exactly. So I'll say, make a list of things you want to do or questions you have. So a lot of the first few weeks is normalizing things. So I get a lot of like, and even for me, when I had my second, I was doing the same thing to my colleagues. He does this and he does that. And they're like, that's fine. I'm like, okay. Like your brain kind of just goes into like panic.
I was wondering how it is for you because you have 2 boys.
Yep.
Did you do this before you had kids?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
So when you had your own kids, was it like piece of cake?
I thought it was going to be. It was still a shock to the system.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
to hear an expert say, yeah, it's hard even for me.
Yeah. I was shocked at how much he didn't know how to nurse. Like I thought like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, you know that you're hungry. Like, and I've helped so many moms breastfeed. I thought like it would have been a breeze. And I was shocked by how challenging it was even for me.
Yeah.
And some like issues that arose and how to manage those. So we were having, tongue tie issues. So the latch wasn't great and he was super gassy and it took a few days for my milk to come in. And so like managing pumping and nursing and all of the things that like, you have like these ideas in your mind of how things are going to go. And then it kind of just takes a turn.
Totally different.
Mm-hmm. And the whole time, both kids, each time I have a hurdle, and especially if it's something I've never encountered, like I'm always like trying to manifest, like keep this in your mind. You're going through this to help the next client that goes through this, or the next time someone has this, you can relate and offer, suggestions and tips.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
So it's so hard when you're going through it.
Reminds me of the potty training. I now look back and why was potty training so hard for my older son?
Yeah.
It's because I was able to help moms later.
Yes.
I went through this struggle
All this.
so that I know how they feel. So it's like you're coming in as a support, a guide, not I'm going to judge you on how you're feeding your kid or bathing your kid. Because sometimes even with family, you might feel like, oh, they're telling me to do it this way. It's uncomfortable.
Absolutely. So that's exactly what it is. It's non-judgmental support. I have no agenda other than supporting the client and just making sure that they're meeting their goals. Like sometimes the goals are changing day by day. That's not for me to decide for them. I can help them get to that point. But if they want to change things at any point, I'm happy to support them because ultimately it's their family, it's their baby. I'm just there to help support and guide them. So going back to like, what does a shift look like?
Yes.
So typically I get in, I answer any questions, and then we either start off with a feed, or if mom just finished feeding, I kind of just quick rundown, 15-20 minute rundown, and then I just send everyone to bed. So depending on how old baby is, I set my alarm for every 3 hours if we're still waking to feed those first few weeks. But I send mom to bed, dad to bed, whoever, put baby to bed. And then I set the alarm and we just will do the next feed. So whether baby is bottle feeding, breastfeeding, if mom isn't nursing, I just typically take over all feeds so she can get a stretch of sleep.
Wow.
If mom is nursing, then we will go ahead and I help her nurse and problem solve and make sure the latch is good and she's comfortable.
Baby back to sleep.
Bring her snacks, her water, whatever.
Oh, you're an angel.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Do you every day, like you're doing this, do you feel like, God, this is so wonderful. This is so special that I get to be a part of this.
Especially the first few years when I started, I would leave my shift. I'm like, I can't believe this is my job. And I still get those pinch me moments where I'm like, I can't believe I just we made this breakthrough, or especially when you make a breakthrough or baby starts I'm sure sleeping. Whoa, we had a number 2 in the potty. Kind of those big milestones where you're
I tell families, wow, I'm if he poops in the potty, please text me. Tell me.
Let me know day or night. So you get those breakthroughs and it's this is so it's so fulfilling, So
wow, I did not know this even existed. So is this a newer thing that's coming into our life, or has this always been around and I just didn't know about it?
Yeah, I feel like the birth doula was more, the birth doulas have been around for
centuries.
Exactly. Yeah. For hundreds and thousands of years. Doula is a Greek term, it translates to support and helping of the mother.
Okay.
So the main focus of doulas is to mother the mother, help that transition. I am a postpartum doula. So I help with the transition, the recovery, and then I'm also a newborn care specialist, which is more baby-centered, schedule-centered, focused. It's pretty sleep-focused. So I have both trainings to help mother the mother those first few weeks. But I found that a lot of my clients, after the recovery and breastfeeding was established and we're kind of making our way, that a lot of clients wanted to kind of just here's a baby, see you in the morning, because they really need sleep. Yes. So that's where the newborn care specialist training kind of came into play, where I started being more baby education.
Got it. Because that would help. I remember in the early stages, that whole night and day where baby does not, what is it? They haven't learned night and day.
Their circadian rhythm is all out of whack.
So what do you do to help with that? If your baby is awake all night and sleeps all day, how do you help with that?
A few things. So I like to make sure that nighttime feeds are super low stimulation. So we are keeping all the lights off if we can. You can use a little night light. The hatch is great.
I've heard that a couple people have mentioned that. Okay.
The hatch is great because you can make it any color of the rainbow. So I recommend keeping it like a red or an amber tone.
Okay.
So anybody, any person, human or human,
adult
or baby.
Sometimes I don't feel human.
Exactly.
So even adults,
yes.
this is helpful. Okay.
Yes. So when our eyes see the light for more than 2 minutes at night, our melatonin production just turns off.
And our brains.
It's why we don't turn the light on when we go to the bathroom in the middle of the night.
Yes.
Because then we lay in bed like
I'm
wired.
so awake.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So, but the red light, for whatever reason, doesn't affect that.
Oh,
so
wow.
like a red light or an amber tone, I've used like a Himalayan salt lamp rock.
So diaper changes, don't turn the light on. Don't turn even like a yellow light. Wish I had met you a few years ago.
I know, exactly. So like the less stimulation as possible. Even like the Apple Watch will have a red light on the flashlight. So that's really handy too.
Okay.
So yeah, no light, no stimulation, no talking, no TV. We're not playing with baby. We're not talking to our spouse what we're gonna do for dinner tomorrow night. Like it's super low stimulation, all business.
Okay.
So like feed, diaper change, swaddle, or back to bed.
Okay.
So just rinse and repeat all night from
7
p.m. to 7 a.m. or 9 p.m. to whatever wake up time is.
Yeah.
And then in the daytime during some wake windows, bringing them outside and exposure to
Give
sunshine.
them that light. Okay.
Even if it's indirect, like kind of hanging out, especially during the summertime.
Right.
If it's in the shade, as long as baby's getting some exposure to some sunshine, fresh air, that will help to
get them in that cycle.
Exactly.
The night day.
And that'll help with the production is what I was the word I was looking for.
Okay.
Production of the melatonin and the serotonin once it comes to that time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you get exhausted from your job? Because you're basically on sleeping something. You're on a newborn baby schedule.
Yeah.
Like,
I've got a newborn.
but then you go home and you have 2 little boys.
Yep.
Is it hard to adjust to that?
Yeah, it has been hard, especially as my kids have gotten older. Shorter naps, less naps, more activities.
Off at baseball, and then, hey, I got to go to work.
Exactly. And we're at that phase where my 3.5-year-old, he still naps, but like, it's not always a guarantee.
Yes, I'm there too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I can't always depend on like, I'll get through the day and take a nap. So I do a few things for self-care to make sure that I am being the most fair to myself, my family, and my clients. So I like to schedule, a flip-flop schedule. So I'm there.
What's that?
I'm there one night, I'm off the next night.
Got it.
And then I'm maybe back the next.
Oh my gosh, are they like opening the door to you like, Cassie,
Yes.
you're here?
Yes,
I'm so
here.
glad.
Yeah.
Do you ever get sad? Like, I feel like I would get connected to these babies and be like, oh.
Yeah, especially when you have like a long contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the longest you do?
I typically, I would say average is like 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
I've definitely had some like 6-monthers, 8-monthers, and I've had a few families where I'm there off and on throughout the first year.
Okay. Because you hit that regression and you go, well, we were doing fine when Cassie was here. Now what do we do? Because my kid's always around like, God, what was it? 9 months? Right around there where you feel like you're starting to get your rhythm going, and then they just
exactly
waking up at 4 in the morning again.
Yeah. Like again with this, we
just
made a big breakthrough. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's usually associated with like a growth spurt and sometimes like a milestone. Like there's a new achievement. So like rolling, crawling, standing. Yep, exactly. Yeah, solid foods add a whole new thing to the equation because you might get a 3 a.m. poop every morning. It's like, all right, we got to take the fiber out of the dinner. I had one client, no berries before dinner because they were always having like 3 a.m. poop.
Wow.
So sometimes it's like problem solving and pivoting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had some clients where I'll stay with them off and on throughout that first year and a half because of regressions, teething, sickness, vaccines. If mom is sick,
Anything
if mom is sick, she needs just a night off, a few nights of good solid rest. Even if baby is sleeping through the night, it's nice because it's that security blanket of knowing if baby wakes up, Cassie is here and I can just sleep.
Do you ever have nights where the baby sleeps the whole night and you're like, well, that was easy?
Yes.
That's the best.
Like,
here you go, Mom.
And I just get home and roll into my day. Like no need for a nap.
That's awesome. Yeah. What would you say is the busiest time of year for babies to be born? Is there a certain time of year where you're like...
Seems like right now. Everybody is like spring babies, March.
So what was 9 months ago?
I know.
I'm trying to like calculate. I was trying to think like, okay, is it 9 months after like Valentine's Day? Is that a big one?
Yeah.
September? Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's definitely September. I get a lot of September babies and a lot of like spring babies. So like March and April.
Okay. So right now, you're busy.
I've gotten 4 inquiries the past like 3 days.
Wow. Are you working with like a network of doulas? Do you, like, I can't take anyone right now. I'm full. Here's someone I recommend.
Yep, exactly. Yep, that's exactly what it is. So yeah, I have a bunch of colleagues and it's always rotating and it's hard to keep track of like who's available when. So sometimes I'll just do like an Instagram post or stories I've got this mom if anyone's available next week, or I do have a handful of friends and colleagues. And then there's there's Facebook groups.
Okay.
And those are a little bit more like, I have no idea who I'm posting. So if it's someone that I really want, like it's a former client I just can't take on, or a friend of a friend or something like that, I do try to connect them with somebody that I do know. And that's helpful because I know the quality of work, their philosophy, the style. I know that they're predictable, that they're going to show up for the shift and they're not going to, do all kinds of funky stuff. Yeah. So we know like philosophy wise, we're on the same page typically.
Now you mentioned former clients. So how many, like my thought was a lot of new moms hire you. How many times, I mean, this makes absolute sense to have, this is my second, third baby. Yep. I actually need more help right now. How many times do you get not necessarily returning clients, but like second baby or third?
I would say it's pretty high. I would say about 50% of my clients are either people that had no idea that this was an option with their first, or, they just didn't think that they would need the support. So now the second go around, they're like, we need it. Yeah. Especially when you have toddlers or little ones, especially even like
more tired.
I've got a 16-month-old and I have a baby due next month. Like they're really close in age because the first is still technically kind of a baby. Yeah. They still need you. So
like there is no sleep when the baby sleeps when you have a second.
And
I can honestly say I felt just as clueless after my second.
Yep.
And add on top of that, even more exhausted.
Yeah.
Because I had a 3-year-old at the time.
Well, then even if you can nap, you're feeling that mom guilt of like, well,
I should be washing bottles. I should be with him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I shouldn't put the iPad on or the TV or whatever. Right. Or I should set up an activity when he gets up from his nap.
I had a lot of mom guilt because my 3-year, when my oldest was 3, he watched a lot of TV because I was so tired.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Tired. I was right there with you. I'm like, Blippi is your parent for the next 20 minutes. I'm gonna close my eyes while the baby's taking a nap.
Right.
It's like you just do what you got to do sometimes. But yeah, a lot of parents will get that support the second or third time around for sure.
Well, that's good to know because like you almost get the feeling of, well, I've done this already. Yep. I should be an expert. I know what I'm doing. Yep. But I can honestly see, even after the third, my middle was such a bad sleeper that before I had Maverick, I said, I need to figure out this sleep thing.
Yep. Oh yeah.
I need to figure out. So I did that taking care of babies class, and that made a world of difference because it just made me feel more confident. Yes. And that's what I read in your website, that you want to give parents confidence and support.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's exactly what I needed. I just needed someone to tell me like, it's okay. You don't have to know everything. I'm here to support you.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be fine.
Yep.
You're going to be fine. How has COVID changed this whole thing? Because like you mentioned to me earlier that sometimes like grandparents or friends have gifted families your services. How has COVID changed? Or I did all my classes at the hospital and then the hospital's closed.
Yep.
So now parents are reaching out to you for like CPR training and that. So how has that gone?
Yeah. So COVID, when COVID hit, it was a really strange time. I panicked a little bit for like a week because I thought, my job is done. No one's going to let people into their home.
Yes.
But it actually pivoted and it was the complete opposite. I was in contract with 2 families and both of them extended because they were like, we can't have you leave. Yeah. And they didn't want anyone else to come in also because things were just weird. We had like, and it was crazy. The same thing because I was like, am I still going to people's houses? Yeah. Is that putting my family at risk?
Right.
So it was a weird time. My clients, we kind of just banded together and we continued. We extended for a few extra months and that was great. But then I started getting the phone calls. So the phone calls and emails started coming in. My mom was supposed to come and stay and now she's stuck. She's stuck in London. She's stuck in, in Australia, wherever it was. My mom can't come. She can't physically support me. They're not letting anyone in the hospital.
Yes.
The hospital stays were like, they were cranking people in and out 24 hours.
That just breaks my heart.
Cesarean or not. So like moms were coming home like with like the breastfeeding was all off the rails because the nurses weren't spending all of this like one-on-one time with getting the latch nice and like.
Oh, I stayed in the hospital the max amount of time for all of mine.
Yeah,
I was like,
it's like a hotel
we need
stay.
one more day, one more day
exactly.
here. My husband's like, get us out of here. I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't leave. The nurses are
here.
here.
They're here. Somebody's here to help.
We don't have nurses at home.
What if I have a question? Exactly. Wow. So yeah, things got real weird and things got really, really busy. So me and a lot of my colleagues, we got really booked out. And we all just really banded together to help these families because what we do is so passion-led and so compassionate that we were all like panicking for these families. Like they have no one. So we were like stretched pretty far to help ensure that everybody got as much care as possible. Yeah. So another thing that came out of the pandemic was I saw the lack of education, the lack of
good education too.
Especially quality education. Getting your questions answered in a way that was not like, this is the uniform generic answer for everyone.
Yes.
So a lot of my clients were saying, oh yeah, I watched the video that the hospital sent us, but it wasn't very helpful, or they sent us links, but we didn't watch them.
Because at that time you couldn't even go to a class.
Couldn't even go. A video. It was like a video or like a Zoom.
Yeah.
So by 2021, I was like, this is still crazy. And then I had seen a lot of people that didn't know much, not out of lack of wanting to know, but like they just felt like not the options were so limited. Exactly. So I created my class, Baby Care 101, which is for expecting parents. So it is a newborn care type class. It's not a childbirth education class.
Okay.
So we go over some recovery measures and what to do to prepare the home and your family and managing relationships. But we cover a lot of the baby care basics. So soothing, diapering, bottle feeding, breastfeeding, SIDS, safety, co-sleeping, bed sharing, everything in between. Yep. It's a 4-hour class. And so that really came out of just seeing like the major demand for quality education.
That's awesome.
And my class is customized to fit whatever the family's goals and preferences are. So I really do try to make it fit for what the family is looking for, in addition to like general care that everybody is going to need as well.
And that's local in Orange County.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then I do some Zoom. I have done a few Zoom calls or Zoom classes for folks that they weren't local.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
All right. What would you say is your favorite part of this job?
It's so hard.
You get to snuggle babies all the time.
I get to snuggle babies, really feeling like I'm helping the entire family. So I get some dads that like cry when I get there, or like siblings and pets. Like you just form these connections and these bonds, especially with some families. I'm there like 5 nights a week. Yeah. So it's like coming in, or sometimes they have family dinners every Sundays and they're like, come on, like we got a plate for you. Come sit and do family dinner at the table with us.
And to be part of such a special point.
It's such an intimate, special time. Exactly. And then like when you're done with the contract, it's so bittersweet because like you're leaving a family like better off, in a good spot, hopefully sleeping pretty well. Yes. That's always like the goal. Like the top goal is always like sleep,
Yeah.
But yeah, just knowing that like the work is not done in vain and it's fulfilling and like it's serving a purpose to help the whole family.
Oh, that's so neat.
Yeah,
oh,
it's really
where
wonderful.
were you 9 years ago?
Yes. I didn't even have my own, but my husband was my postpartum doula.
What made you get started in this? Had you been like in nursing, or had you been around babies, or?
I always wanted to be a nurse. I thought I wanted to be a nurse. I went to FITM, which is a fashion school.
Yeah.
And I graduated in 2008 when like the market was crashing. There was a recession. There was no jobs. I was not getting a job in fashion. So I pivoted. I worked as an office manager for my husband's company, which was kind of like consulting, construction, like nothing I was passionate about. And then after 6 years, I was like, I'm going to leave. And I just started babysitting and like nannying. And I was like, I was babysitting in the
filling
day.
my cup.
Yeah. I was like cocktailing at night. Like I just was like.
So you were used to nights from early
exactly.
on.
I've always been a night owl. So like just slinging drinks and changing baby diapers and doing story time. And I was like, this is just paying the bills, know? And I was like, this is really cool. And I had at one point a family where I was with a few different families throughout the week. So I had a baby 2 days a week. I had a toddler once a week, and then I had like other school age kind of kids. And the baby, I started when he was 6 weeks old, and I was a mother's helper.
Okay.
And I stayed with him till just past his first birthday. So with that family, mom was there, and it was my first exposure to like so many things.
Because at the time you weren't a mom.
No.
So then you're seeing her perspective. And her like...
She was breastfeeding. Wow. She was pumping. So I was like managing her milk, storage, labeling. We did cloth diapers. We did baby wearing, like things I had zero idea about. Wow. We did baby-led weaning. I made food, like purees. And like we did so much that it was really eye-opening. And then I did a lot of like other random tasks. But I was like, wow, this is really helping her, you know, like I could see she could like go take a nap, go run errands. She was studying for some nursing exam or taking a course or something at some point. And I noticed like, because sometimes I would be like, I'm not really doing anything. We're just like hanging out on, downstairs and playing with the baby or taking him on a walk. But like seeing that she could just check out of mom mode, for a little bit.
Because really when you're in those early days, it's like, you're consumed with it.
Yeah.
So to know you can just kind of hand off the baby for a little bit.
Yep. We did sleep training. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I was like, she had read the Ferber book. I'm like, okay, you tell me and I'll follow. But then friends and family members started having babies, and I'm like, I'll come over. And then I just started doing what I had no idea was a postpartum doula, but I was doing postpartum doula shifts for friends and family members, like teaching them things, hanging out with the baby, letting them go take a nap or a shower. And then I worked seasonally during the summer at Angel Stadium at one of the restaurants. And a colleague of mine, Bree, she said, I know you're nannying and I know you're loving it, but you should do this postpartum doula thing. And I was like, what is that? And she was explaining it to me. I'm like, okay, so I'm basically already I'm doing this for free. And she was like, yeah, but I do nights because nights works better for me and my schedule. And I'm like, what? Like you go to people's houses at nighttime.
Do they set up like a separate room for you? Do you sleep on the couch?
Sometimes. So sometimes I get like a guest room downstairs with a bassinet. Sometimes I'm in the nursery with a bed. Sometimes I'm in the living room with a bassinet or a snoo or whatever in there. Just some sort of horizontal space.
Somewhere to sleep.
Yeah. Sometimes like sitting in a chair for 9 hours is a backbreaker. But yeah, so I was like, and I still hadn't had kids at this point. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, what do you mean you go to people's houses? Like, this is weird in the middle of the night and you're like, try to find things and you're like, just, how do you not wake people up? And she was like, just trust me. It's so cool. Like, wow, it's great. And I'm like, okay. So she took me under her wing. She trained me and she just brought me on jobs, and we would keep our communication so fluid that there was no change of care, like based on who was on that night.
Who was there.
Exactly. Okay. There was such a continuity of care provided between us that the parents loved that they didn't have to say, okay, Bree did this, and this is what she did, and this is what she told us. I already knew all that. So rolling in, they could be like,
here you go.
Yep. Here's good night. We'll see you. See you in 6 hours, or see you in 3 hours, see you in the morning, whatever.
That's so awesome.
For the next feed. Yep.
Okay. If you could give any advice to a new mom, new parents, what would you say?
Get educated. Get to know what to expect.
Not just from a book.
Exactly.
What to expect when you have kids. No.
Yeah. Those are helpful, but not as realistic. So whether it's from someone like me or another like newborn type expert is really helpful. And then get kind of like a good plan of who your helpers and supporters are going to be, especially those first few weeks. So I like to, in my class, we do a little activity where I say, you don't have to tell these people what category they fall into or when they're allowed to come over. But I like to recommend for the first few weeks, folks only allowing really people to come over that are helpers. So their goal is to help with chores over snuggles. Okay. So they're dropping off Starbucks dinner, tossing a load of laundry.
I'm not going to take up 3 hours of your time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Leave dirty dishes.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
They're just there to help you. Then the visitors are maybe the folks that are allowed to come over like between 2 to 10 weeks, say. Okay. And those are the friends. And usually about that point, you're ready to kind of like have a fresh face, someone else to come over, hand the baby, maybe take a shower.
I can move again.
Exactly. You're ready to like chat and like, go over your birth story. all that. So those are kind of the visitors. Their priority is probably snuggles and visiting and stuff like that. So the visitors. And then like the adventurers. So like between 10 and 16 weeks, maybe like child-free friends or friends with older kids that want to go shopping or go grab lunch. Usually by this stage, you've got a good handle on how do we change the baby's diaper when we're out and about?
How does breastfeed in public?
How are we feeding baby? How does the stroller collapse and open up? You're not fumbling, at 3 weeks with all this pressure, like you feel so much pressure. So usually by that stage, you're kind of ready to like get out and have some outings. So definitely just like having that plan and categorization of people. And then like having conversations with people that will want to come over that first week and you don't want them over. So whether that's like gentle guiding or maybe it's your husband's family, like he's going to have that conversation instead of you being the bad guy. Like Katie said she doesn't want anyone over. Like, no.
I love this. Do you go over this in your class?
Yep.
That was never addressed at the hospital.
Yep. And this is like
so helpful.
This is usually like a big point of contention with a lot of families.
That's the part that like would bring a lot of stress to moms.
Yep.
Unneeded stress.
And
to address it
stress
before.
You might not think about until you're there in it.
And you're in it. Oh, I remember what my husband and I learned by our third was when I got to my melting point, like the baby has been crying in my arms, like even with my third, it really, like it would hit a nerve. I would just look at him and say, I think it's your turn. Yeah. And then he would take the baby from me. And like, if he felt that way, he'd be like, hey, it's your turn. I need you to hold him. And just like go out for like a 5 minute, like outside.
Absolutely.
But had I known that with my first, I would have known like, I can put him down.
I have permission. Yeah.
Yes. This is my way of saying I need some help.
Absolutely.
And I just love that you talk about that in your classes.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. Yeah. Preemptively having that conversation before it gets to the boiling point and then you're shocked or stuck.
Or sobbing like I was.
Yep. And sometimes I have students that like family is going to come, they're staying before the weeks leading up to the birth. And after, and they want to stay with us. How do you feel about that? We don't want them to stay with us. Then tell them they've got to get their own place or an Airbnb, or we would really like to not have to host anybody. Yeah. But again, have those conversations so that they're not there and 5 days into having a newborn, you're like, I need some space. I just want my house back.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. This is all so, so helpful.
Yeah.
So let's say someone wanted to reach out to you and find you. Where do we find you?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram, Top Notch Newborn Care, or my website, topnotchnewborncare.com.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Like I feel relief from just hearing you talk about how you help moms. Like I just feel relief from my past pregnancies.
Yes. And anybody else that hopefully can gain any little nuggets of wisdom or idea or just confidence to venture into this, whether it's your first or fourth baby.
Because third, I still needed help. But by the third, I started learning how to ask for that help.
Absolutely. Getting that permission, asking for help. That's another thing we always talk about in our class. Ask for help and then let the help happen. Yeah. Like you can't, I'm a self-proclaimed micromanager. So I would ask for help and then I would micromanage everyone. So I'm still stressed because I feel like I'm doing.
Or I don't know what to actually ask for. Like I need help, but I don't know what's going to help me.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So if you need help, go find Cassie. Yes. Go check her out. And I want to thank you for coming on because you've just been so wonderful. I love it.
Thank you. Thanks again for having me.
I love it. And for everyone listening, remember that everyone burns their first pancake. So just keep flipping. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast because a new momversation comes out every Friday.